that is a very short song. It's a short part of the selection there. I didn't realize it was so short. I wasn't quite ready to keep up with that. Okay, we're continuing today. I don't know where I'm down near the floor. All right. Continuing today in the in the book of Daniel, chapter 11. Well, let's read the whole chapter, even though we're picking up at verse 21. And even though I don't think we're going to have much to say about the first 20 verses, who knows, right? Who knows? Maybe we'll get some insight. I really would like to have some extra insight. And that buzzing we're going to have to live with today because there's no easy way to fix it right now. I tested it, though. It's not really loud on your end, I think. All right. Also I, in the first year of Darius the Mede, even I, stood to confirm and to strengthen him. And now will I show thee the truth. Behold, there shall stand up yet 3 kings in Persia, and the 4th shall be far richer than they all. And by his strength, through his riches, he shall stir up all against the realm of Grecia. And the mighty king shall stand up, and shall rule with great dominion, and do according to his will. And when he shall stand up, his kingdom shall be broken, and shall be divided towards the 4 winds of heaven, and not to his posterity, nor according to his dominion which he ruled. For his kingdom shall be plucked up, even for others besides those. And the king of the south shall be strong, and one of his princes, and he shall be strong above him, and have dominion, and his dominion shall be a great dominion. And in the end of years they shall join themselves together. For the king's daughter of the south shall come to the king of the north to make an agreement, but she shall not retain the power of the arm. Neither shall he stand, nor his arm, but she shall be given up. And they that brought her, and he that begat her, and he that strengthened her in these times. You know, arm stands for strength. I didn't say that last time, But out of a branch of her roots shall one stand up in his estate, which shall come with an army, and shall enter into the fortress of the king of the south, and shall deal against him, and shall prevail. And shall also carry captives into Egypt their gods, with their princes, and with their precious vessels of silver and gold, and he shall continue more years than the king of the north. So the king of the south shall come into his kingdom, and shall return into his own land. But his sons shall be stirred up, and shall assemble a multitude of great forces, and one shall certainly come and overflow and pass through. Then shall he return and be stirred up, even to his fortress. And the king of the south shall be moved with choler, and shall come forth and fight with him, even with the king of the north. And he shall set forth a great multitude, but the multitude shall be given into his hand. And when he hath taken away the multitude, his heart shall be lifted up, and he shall cast down many 10,000s, but he shall not be strengthened by it. For the king of the north shall return, and shall set forth a multitude greater than the former, and shall certainly come after certain years with a great army and with much riches. And in those times there shall many stand up against the king of the south. Also the robbers of thy people shall exalt themselves to establish the vision, but they shall fail. So the king of the north shall come, and shall cast up a mount, and take the most fenced cities, and the arms of the south shall not withstand. That's the king of the south. The king of the north shall come. Sometimes it's, these glasses are not very good, and my eyes are very bad. So and the arms of the south shall not withstand, neither his chosen people, neither shall there be any strength to withstand. But he that cometh against him shall do according to his will, and none shall stand before him. And he shall stand in the glorious land, by which his hand shall be consumed. He shall also set his face to enter with the strength of his whole kingdom, and upright ones with him. Thus shall he do, and shall give him the and he shall give him the daughter of women, corrupting her. But she shall not stand on his side, neither before him. After this shall he turn his face toward the isles, unto the isles. After this shall he turn his face unto the isles, and shall take many. But a prince for his own behalf. I gotta back up a bit, I think. Yeah. But a prince for his own behalf shall... Let's rename that a little. But a prince for his own behalf... Where was I reading? I was in the middle of a verse. Corrupting her... Oh, yeah, there it is. I'll just start at the beginning of the verse. After this shall he turn his face unto the isles, and shall take many. But a prince for his own behalf shall cause the reproach offered by him to cease. Without his own reproach, he shall cause it to turn upon him. Then shall he turn his face toward the fort of his own land, but he shall stumble and fall and not be found. Then shall stand up in his estate a raiser of taxes in the glory of the kingdom. But within few days shall he be destroyed, neither in anger nor in battle. As long as I have fans making noise, I'm going to turn this one on because I'm kind of heating up here. And in his estate shall stand up a vile person, to whom they shall not give the honor of the kingdom. But he shall come in peaceably, and obtain the kingdom by flatteries. And with the arms of a flood shall they be overflown from before him, and shall be broken, yea, also the prince of the covenant. And after the league made with him shall he work deceitfully, for he shall come up and shall become strong with a small people. He shall enter peaceably, even upon the fattest places of the province, and he shall do that which his fathers have not done, nor his fathers' fathers. He shall scatter among them the prey and the spoil and riches. Yea, he shall forecast his devices against the strongholds, even for a time. And he shall stir up his power and his courage against the king of the south with a great army. And the king of the south shall be stirred up to battle with a very great and mighty army. But he shall not stand, for they shall forecast devices against him. Yea, they that feed the portion of his meat shall destroy him, and his army shall overflow, and many shall fall down slain. And both these kings' hearts shall be to do mischief, and they shall speak lies at one table, but it shall not prosper, for yet the end shall be at the time appointed. Then shall he return to his own land with great riches, and his heart shall be against the holy covenant, and he shall do exploits. And return to his own land. At the time appointed he shall return and come toward the south, but it shall not be as the former or as the latter. For the ships of Kittim shall come against him. Therefore shall he be grieved, and return and have indignation against the holy covenant. So shall he do. He shall even return and have intelligence with them that forsake the holy covenant. And arms shall stand on his part, and they that pollute the sanctuary of strength, and shall take away the daily sacrifice. And arms shall stand on his part, and they shall pollute the sanctuary of strength, and shall take away the daily sacrifice, and they shall place the abomination that maketh desolate. And such as do wickedly against the covenant shall he corrupt by flatteries. But the people that know their God shall be strong and do exploits. And they that understand among the people shall instruct many. Yet they shall fall by the sword, and by flame, by captivity, and by spoil, many days. Now when they shall fall, they shall be holpen with a little help, and many shall cleave to them with flatteries. And some of them of understanding shall fall, to try them and to purge, and to make them white, even to the time of the end, because it is yet for a time appointed. And the king shall do according to his will, and he shall exalt himself, magnify himself above every god, and shall speak marvelous things against the God of gods, and shall prosper till the indignation be accomplished, for that is determined shall be done. And neither shall he regard the God of his fathers, nor the desire of women, nor regard any god, for he shall magnify himself above all. But in his estate shall he honor the God of forces. And a God whom his fathers knew not shall he honor with gold and silver, and with precious stones and pleasant things. Thus shall he do in the most strongholds with a strange God, whom he shall acknowledge and increase with glory. And he shall cause them to rule over many, and divide the land for gain, and shall divide. And at the time of the end shall the king of the south push at him, and the king of the north shall come against him like a whirlwind, with chariots and with horsemen, and many ships, and he shall enter into the countries, and shall overflow and pass over. He shall enter also into the glorious land, and many countries shall be overthrown. But these shall escape out of his hand, even Edom and Moab, and the chief of the children of Ammon. He shall stretch forth his hand also upon the countries, and the land of Egypt shall not escape. But he shall have power over the treasures of gold and of silver, and over all the precious things of Egypt. And the Libyans and the Ethiopians shall be at his steps. But tidings out of the east and out of the north shall trouble him. Therefore shall he go forth with great fury to destroy, and utterly to make away many. And he shall plant the tabernacles of his palace between the seas of the glorious holy, between the seas and the glorious holy mountain. Yet shall he come to his end, and none shall help him. None shall help him. And then at that time, these are the last verses. I've been reading them, but to get the full feel of it. But I think we can stop at the end of this chapter. We've read that through, and we kind of know that that's where it ends, and it's close up the book Daniel for many days, and then it gives the numbers again. And we'll talk about 12 eventually. We've got a lot of verses to cover here, and so let's look at them. So when it says in his state, the raiser of taxes, and I went through the names of the historic figures, and this would be where Antiochus Epiphanes would appear. And honestly, it still seems like him, but I guess the reason some scholars don't say that is because I guess it doesn't entirely match right or something. I mean, obviously there's a lot more going on. So I'm going to just leave behind the historical aspect for now, because I just want to talk about the concept of the evil king and the things he does. Because whatever you want to say about this is a type of Antichrist, and that is the way it's going to be most useful to us. We can study history and being a little more informed about that history. Maybe sometime I've watched videos on it, but but I'm always like, I just walk away having just like a layman's knowledge as far as all that depth of like those different battles and stuff. History in a lot of ways is difficult because historians you see what it's like with the news today. All right, roll the clock back 1,000 years. When people weren't running to and fro so much and knowledge wasn't quite so oppressive, so ubiquitous. It's like, literally, there's more knowledge, but there's a lot less wisdom. I'll say that. So I thought this was interesting because this verse particularly reminds me of like a Hitler type of a Antichrist type figure. Because he's a vile person to whom they do not give the honor of the kingdom. You know what I mean? And he comes in and he peaceably and obtains the kingdom by flatteries. Meaning, you are the most wonderful people. You are the people. He's a demagogue. He uses, rhetoric to stir people up and get them behind him. And here's the thing. A lot of people use rhetoric. Rhetoric just means, you're talking, the things you're saying. Sometimes it means something more than that. When someone's being, if they're trying to have a deeper meaning, like, I don't like your rhetoric. They have a little bit of a inflection on there that means something. But it's just the things you say and the way you say them. And he uses flatteries. I wonder what the exact meaning of that word is. Hold on, I'm pulling it up. It didn't come up the way it should. And I don't need to do this, but I should. There we go. As long as I'm doing it, might as well bring you all along for the ride, right? Continue the conversation inside. All right, flatteries. Smoothness, or smooth words. Prophesy not unto us right things, prophesy smooth things, prophesy deceits, People like to hear smooth things. That's how false prophets often make their hay, and also how they get into trouble, because they just tell people the things that people want to hear. And that's, like just like a fortune teller, a happy customer is a returning customer. You don't want to give them a bunch of, I suppose a cynical person in that position could tell someone something very bad, and then get them coming back because they were frightened. I don't know. I've never been to a fortune teller or any of these. I one time had a guy try to cold read me in a church who was pretending to be a prophet. That I've had that done against my will, which I don't. I didn't really like or appreciate at the time, to tell you the truth, because I don't believe in that kind of prophesying where someone's just looking at someone and trying to guess at what they do or who they are. Like the Psychic Friends Network from when I was a kid on, the phone. Call your psychic friend and you'll talk to a live psychic on the phone. I'm sure the screening process was really, really top notch. Anyways, so you obtain, leaders who flatter, and that's one of my objections when I used to study with Arnold Murray. I realized after a while, the way he flatters his students is, it's wrong. You shouldn't flatter people. You give people the praise they deserve. Let another man's lips praise you. You don't withhold from saying good things about people when you have an opportunity. It's a good thing to do. That's something that we should do because it's the right thing to do. And it also is beneficial for everyone. But anyways. So, there's a type of, you figure Satan when he comes, how's he going to flatter people? You're so smart. That's what I didn't like about, you're so smart when you're pretty sharp because you're one of my students and you understand these things because you have eyes to see. Now, we know that we need to have eyes to see to understand the truth. But, you can play on that in such a way that it becomes a flattery. The way Jesus talks about election and stuff, I never felt flattered by it. But when my old teacher used to teach it, I did feel flattered. You could be one of God's elect. All of us are God's elect if we're saved. You're all God's elect, and you're all saints too. So it's not the saints and the elect and Moses and all the high muckety mucks of religion. You understand, compared to God, they're all at my level. Pretty low. Pretty low. That's both somewhat, it's like kind of there's almost a fatalistic kind of thing in there where it's like, boy, man is pretty pathetic, hopelessly, depraved and unable to save himself, as I believe. And I'm not a complete Calvinist, I guess, whatever, but I know I have a lot of agreement there. And that isn't, to deny the experience of people. Because our experience is not we predestinated the world. It's not. That's God's experience. He's the one who made things happen. He's the one who intervenes to make them happen. It's maybe just free enough, but God still controls. I mean, that is what ultimately is running things. With the arms of a flesh, okay, yeah, he shall. So, a vile person to whom they shall not get. I mean, not that Hitler was obviously vile from the beginning. You could look at him and say, he looked the funny way. And, you can say that about people. It's not obvious. Satan is a vile person, but he's going to be a beautiful person. Like Justin Trudeau. There's a good example of someone who I'm sure many women find him attractive, right? And, he's kind of got that looks like a boy still thing going on, And, but he's a monster. He's a monster. He's a vile person. Maybe not as vile as some, though, as far as I know. But I mean, as far as what he's done to people's rights in Canada, he's a monster. And he should be regarded as such. And I hope they discover that over there, up there. to be the common, that's what people believe, because it should be believed. So that, I wonder, I didn't look at the word vile. I wonder what that word was. That would have been worth looking at. A vile person. A vile person is one word, by the way, but means to despise. A despicable. A shalva. Yeah, I brought it up. Shalva. Vile. Quietness. What is this, the wrong one again? And Boy, it's translated prosperity. This can't be right. No, there's something wrong here. Wait a second. Yeah, it's translated abundance, peace, prosperity. I must have clicked on the wrong word. I clicked on the word for peace instead. Peaceably, right? That must be what it did. Vile person. I clicked on that instead of that. Oh, I see how that happens. So, it's bazah, to despise. There we go. Pretty straightforward, I think. Esau despised his birthright. Interesting. That's the verb used for he despised his birthright. And this is a person who is himself despised. Or just maybe not despised, but despicable. You know what I mean? Someone who is worthy of that title. That's what they do. They come in, they lie, they flatter, they cheat, they steal. That's what, and politicians always like, they get out there and will flatter people and tell people all kinds of nice things, promise them the world, And I get it. I mean, because the thing is, you want to hear people say, if they're going to be your leaders, you want them to tell you they're going to do good things. And you want to believe them, too. But there are people who will just use that. That's Joe Biden. He's been lying his way through his entire career. He was a plagiarist. He lied about his college accomplishments and stuff. Plagiarized parts of speeches during his original presidential campaign. The guy's just a big liar. And a lot of politicians, unfortunately, are just people who realize, I can just say lies and be elected, and then it's a cushy job. I used to think that. The reason I didn't go into it, because it didn't seem honorable. Honestly, there's a lot of ways in which I can't pursue money because it doesn't seem honorable to me. It's kind of like my personal cross to bear or something. Anyways, maybe that's just me. But he obtains the kingdom this way. And that makes me think of Hitler's rise to power. Though honestly, he never really won a majority of anything. He was elected in a democratic election where people voted, but his party didn't. It was like a parliamentary type thing where they're like, the Reichstag, where it's like I think his party got 30% of the vote, so they made him the chancellor, or the whatever they have over there at that time in the Weimar Germany. And it makes me think of the way he rose, though, because he even though, in a sense, he didn't even really win a majority vote. And there you go. He and they didn't give him the honor of the kingdom. And in that case, it was almost like they had just had a king. Some people still wanted a king back. And one of the things that I don't know, it's funny that Hindenburg, who was instrumental in bringing Hitler to power, he was pleased because he thought he would be an authoritative, king-like leader. He needed someone to get in there, be strong, and not be a weak leader. Well, that certainly didn't exactly work out probably as he had hoped. Though in some ways, if you look at it that way, it might have been inevitable. Maybe not things like the Holocaust inevitable, but the World War II probably was, to tell you the truth. I don't know. Because the German military certainly was itching to go, And a lot of them, so it's not like one man did it all, that's for sure. But anyways, arms stood on his part, just like in this. Sometimes, they get help from their friends. Hitler did not, he tried a beer hall putsch, but I'm not saying that's Hitler, by the way. I'm just saying Hitler's like that. It's a good example. And, you see, when people become close to examples in the Bible, when they get close to Antichrist, really bad stuff happens. The more Antichrist-like stuff you have going on in society, the more stuff that looks like Revelation. No one can buy or sell without a mask. No one can get groceries without a mask. No one can come here without a vaccine. No one can. Whenever they start trying to impose these bizarre, and they don't understand how bizarre they are because they've all been brainwashed into thinking they're just being. It's like we're just asking you to drink water. It's like we just want you to drink water. I mean, it's for you. Why won't you drink water? You'll die. What are you, crazy? Not drink water. That's how they feel about people who don't want these injections. And I've never been, I have a long-standing thing with my, what was this saying? There's no sound. It was probably the opening. I think there's something wrong, right? The music didn't play. All right, so I'm trying to figure that out. Anyways, I gotta maybe do a video in here maybe instead for an opening. Maybe I'll make an opening video. I'll get serious about that. Well, I'll have to figure that out. I'd have to produce it every day because it has a different title every day. I just have a title at the end of the card. I can have a little video plays of music. I don't know. I like playing the different music. All right, back to this. So I'm not saying that's Hitler, but that is something to think about. Like you see Hitler rise like that, and then it looks like this. And Antichrist could be that sort of figure. If he's not a supernatural being who comes like God in the machine out of the sky to fix all our problems, right? If he's not exactly that, but more like a man who's extremely charismatic and able to do this with human things, it's interesting. Because I don't think because like I said, he will exalt himself above all and claim to be God. In our world, it'd be very difficult to take a human seriously like that, I guess. I don't know. Though, what we're going into now, who knows? The future we're about to enter into with AI and stuff, and people who have melded themselves with machines and such, as some are planning to do. If history goes on, we're going to get into some very strange territory. The thing is, the book of Revelation will still be a perfect guide in how to avoid hell on earth and for reality, and the reality of it, of the ultimate condemnation of the wicked. With the arms of flood shall they be overflown from before him, and shall be broken. Yeah, also the Prince of the Covenant. So that's really interesting. Again, previously was talking about marriages and stuff. A Prince of the Covenant thing sounds to me like if there was maybe a marriage and a child, and then, you know what I mean? Because I don't think that means the Prince of our covenant, the Holy Covenant. It's another, or even when they say Holy Covenant, it just might mean that that they have some sort of sacred compact that they have entered into. Yeah, I mean, like two earthly rulers, when they make an agreement and sign their name, God counts that. He expects them to abide by that. That's why I know we're wrong in Ukraine, because we said we wouldn't go 1 mile east from Germany with NATO. And we're on their doorstep. And no wonder we got war with them. That's got to stop. But when the Antichrist comes, everywhere I read it, from the example of the Assyrian and their armies just flooding into Israel and just wiping everyone out and just overwhelming them with just like a flood. Like Isaiah says, Isaiah 28 is one of my favorite chapters. I quote it a lot. I don't quote it a lot, but I used to quote it a lot, I think. I can recite many portions. I have a song for it, of course. But there's a part where it's talking about this overwhelming scourge that's going to pass through, and was referring to the Assyrians. You shall be trodden down by. They think, well, it's not going to come to us. We're not going to. And just like in Revelation, the dragon casts waters as a flood out of his mouth. There's this idea of this, but when it comes in, it's going to be this overwhelming thing. Like it says in Isaiah 28, it'll be a vexation to understand the report. And that, you think about what happened in the pandemic. Like, first on, I remember when I was hearing whisperings of it in January. I think that's when I first started hearing whisperings of it. Or maybe it was later than that, I forget. I know that by the time it was like, it was in I remember second last tournament of the regular season, which would put us in February, like the third week of February. That's when I think I caught it. And then I was sick the next week. And I don't think I went to the last tournament, or I did anyways, because that's what we used to do. You get a cold, you don't stay home, not unless you're dead sick. And when I got COVID, I didn't go anywhere. I stayed home because I was sick, bad. But when it all happened, you see how quickly people just were swept away with the propaganda and stuff. They were just immediately, oh, we're going to lock down everything. You've never heard this before. We have a pandemic plan, we do. But we're throwing that out. We're just going to try an experiment where we do what the Chinese do, and they're communists. Isn't that a good idea? No? Well, screw you. We got thousands of people who think it is a good idea for some reason. And they're going to shut down their businesses, fall on their swords, essentially. Right? They're going to fall on their swords for us, and we're going to put all the old people on ventilators and kill them so we get an inflated death number. Any time someone's got a little sniffles, stick them on the ventilator. 10 grand in the bank. Or I forgot, was it 40? They got paid big money for COVID deaths. It was like bonus. If you had any corpses with COVID on it, that's worth extra money. It's really sick. And all that's going on, and people don't even believe. People are still seriously, even, and it's they've admitted, even recently, there was like admitting the CDC, up to a third of the deaths we counted probably weren't really deaths from COVID. And it's probably twice that. It's probably 2/3. Because they lie. They constantly lie. They all lie. And that's how you know you're in a bad society, because it's a kingdom of lies. When people don't tell the truth, the society goes to hell. And that is where we are headed. Things are going to get... I'm going to fight it. I'm going to be optimistic. I'm going to fight the battle. But that's where they're pushing us, toward hell on earth. Everybody ready to go? So at some point, they're going to get somebody who can, either a supernatural figure, an alien, or a man who's charismatic enough to pull this off. And once again, we'll have some jerk off like Hitler in charge of everything, putting people in death camps and all that, or just killing them outright and right in front of you. There's definitely death. He will make war with the saints, and he will make war generally. And shall be broken even the prince of the covenant. I don't know what that means. I could read dark things into it, like if it was sort of like Christ. But it is a prince of a covenant of something. The prince of the covenant. The prince, is it the prince that comes from the covenant? The prince that maintains the covenant? The prince that is covenantal in his coming? You know what I mean? The prince, or the ruler of the covenant, the person who presides over the covenant. I want to see what that says in the, let's go look at the Bible Hub. Let's see what they got on that, huh? Prince of the covenant. What is that? Also the prince, the leader, ruler, or prince, covenant, brith, a covenant, yeah. I think ruler is probably better thought of than prince, because prince sounds like, prince sounds like a rainy term, like rain. Like, if you think of a prince with a crown and his little cape on, and he's all glorious and shiny, prince. But if I say ruler, it could be a guy. When I say prince, you imagine something kind of like a young man, maybe handsome. All the princes in the movies are usually not awful. And even Prince Harry ain't such a bad looking guy, right? And the other dude, I forget, whatever. not as goofy looking as their dad. And, right? But I mean, whatever, a prince. But if I say ruler, you get a little more broad sense. And also, it puts the idea of the covenant in relationship to it into a different light. The ruler of the covenant. I think that might mean, see, with arms of a flood shall they be overflown from before him and shall be broken. Yea, also the prince. To me, that means like our constitution will become null and void. Like that covenant, that contract that used to govern things, swept away, gone. It'll be gone. There'll be no constitution anymore. He will completely wipe all that stuff away. That is consistent with that kind of a leader, right? That is the behavior. That's what Hitler did, take away people's rights, we sign these acts, transport the Jews, all that. And lately I've been hearing this thing that he's saying, you can never compare anything to the Holocaust. What are you, psycho? What's wrong with you? You can never compare anything to that. If you don't compare things to the Holocaust, how are you going to know if you're getting close to a Holocaust? I mean, you shouldn't say like, oh, when the team lost, it was like the Holocaust. Obviously, that's not, and you shouldn't compare things lightly. But it's like, when people say like, well, this is what the Nazis did before they started rounding up the Jews. You can't say that. What do you mean you can't say that? It's something they did that we don't do, but it obviously led to them doing even worse things. And you're saying I can't talk about it? Go to hell. I'll talk about it all I like. I'll compare everything to the Holocaust just to make sure that nothing's like it. Don't compare anything to the Holocaust. Don't talk. You don't have anything to say. It's like people just say stuff. They repeat things. It's pathetic and disgusting. Think a little. Don't compare anything. I understand. It's, bad comparisons and all that. Okay, bad analogies and all that. Don't say you can't compare. No, I mean, there aren't a lot of things that are comparable, like exactly. But when you start saying, like, don't compare, because that's what they'll say. Somebody starts talking about, oh, well, the Nazis, papers, please. And they're saying, well, don't compare vaccine mandates to the Holocaust. I'm not comparing it to the Holocaust. I'm comparing it to the Nazi practices. I'm not saying it's the Holocaust. I'm saying it's not authoritarian. It's totalitarian. I don't mind authoritarian so much. Authoritarian means you exercise your authority. I get it. I'm not a big authoritarian. Well, until I am, right? I'm a pretty big authority around my house, actually. When it comes to actual points of like when it comes down to it, yeah, I'm in charge. Unless someone can kick my ass, I'm in charge. You have to, in one way or the other, not necessarily physically. You got to kick my ass as far as you got to do what I do. You got to replace me, to be me, to take me down. I'm in charge, and I'm in charge by virtue of being in charge. But I don't run my household like an authoritarian psycho, like some sort of psychopathic, douchebag. Or I'm sorry, I shouldn't say that. That's kind of a profane term. All right, but that's kind of a profane person that does such things. Obtaining the kingdom by flatteries, but it's like a flood that just sweeps everything away. So that's why I always thought that supernatural, speaking peace, flattering people. Because he'll come to because I always took the idea that it said in Isaiah in chapter 14 when it talks about the king of Babylon. It says, "Thou hast destroyed thy land and slain thy people." And I thought that's what they do. They don't care about their own people. Like the people, like who's hurt most listening to them? It's the people that obey them are hurt the worst. And Satan also, when he comes, he could very easily just be like, hey, all you Satanists, yeah, I'm going to put you to death because you're Satanists and I'm Jesus, just to prove to the Christians. Because I already own you. You can just go burn in hell right now. Just send you off, sizzle you up a bit, maybe some fire from heaven, I don't know. Just to show them I mean business, maybe some of the worst of the worst, I always thought he could come in and do a little bloodletting that would make people really convinced, But it says he will come peaceably and obtain the kingdom by flattery. So even so, there is war in here, in the machinations of it all, in his attempt to get complete dominance, because that's what it is, to become a world hegemon, to completely control the world. That's the goal. Okay. So overflown from before him and shall be broken. Yeah, also the prince of the covenant. That's the I think all that. It's like whatever might have opposed him, the ruler of the covenant. Now, not the saints, but because it says the earth opened up her mouth and swallowed the flood, so the woman could escape. We escaped the flood. The flood does not affect us because it's a spiritual matter. It's about because we know better. It's part of like really the way you overcome the mark of the beast is by knowing who the beast is, by knowing that's the beast with the mark and 666, and you're all taking it. You don't even realize it because that might be. But because they won't realize that what they have is the mark, they'll think it's something else. They'll say it's just my ID or it's just whatever. I don't believe in that per se, like that it's going to be an ID or whatever like that. But some other thing, because it's probably something that you're going to have as a way to show your loyalty. Just like with the masks, showing you're obedient, getting your vaccine, showing you're in line with things. If you don't do the thing that you will find it impossible to function in a society of people who believe that this is God. You know what I mean? If you're still a Christian in a world, if you're still praying to a God in heaven when there is the whole world thinks there's a God on earth, and you're still praying for Jesus to come back when they think he's here in one way or the other, or because the thing is, the end times prophesies a great apostasy, and that's one of the things we look for is a great falling away first, and the man of sin to be revealed. I think those two are connected. The falling away first is before Christ is revealed, but he is the cause of the falling away. That is why Mystery Babylon is his wife, and the reason she's a fornicator and not an adulteress is because she wasn't married to Christ. She was only espoused, as Paul said. She was espoused to him, but she was unfaithful. And when he comes, that's what I expect. After the league made with him, he shall work deceitfully, for he shall come up and shall become strong with a small people. Sounds kind of earthly, And like I said, it's possibly, like I said, I don't have a problem thinking of this as Antiochus, but I'm not sure that's exactly the way it went with Antiochus. And that's why I think Bullinger was saying, scholars say at 21 it begins the Antichrist. Because of what? I guess the other scholars say at 21 that he got Antiochus wrong. Is that it? Is that what it is? Because I don't know. Because I know some scholars dispute the King of the South and King of the North narrative of this chapter, right? They say, there's historical records that disagree. And like I was saying, history is a bit of a, like people don't always record it right. They assume they recorded it wrong in the Bible. A lot of these scholars do. So why should I assume it was recorded right somewhere else? You know what I mean? If you assume that it's wrong, then we can assume it's all wrong. As far as like the historical accounts, if they aren't reliable, then they're just not reliable. If the Bible isn't reliable, the histories aren't reliable because they're all similarly about the same stuff. And if they're in dispute with each other, they were probably in dispute at the time. You know what I mean? They're just like now. We have competing narratives about what's going on. Right? So there's a league made with him. Maybe that's the other kings, the 10 kings or the 7 kings or whichever kings, right? The 3 that are plucked up, who knows? He has some league with them, and he works deceitfully within that league. That'd be interesting. That'd be like, but that's interesting. He shall work to see. He shall come up and be strong with a small people. It'd be like if Antichrist came out of like Luxembourg or Belgium or something, I guess, like a small nation and in league with other nations. There is a great league of nations called NATO that's fighting a war right now against Russia, but Russia's further north, But maybe later on it's going to fight China, and that could be considered king of the south, I guess, and the kings of the east. You know, but there is that passage in Revelation where the great river Euphrates is dried up that the way of the kings of the east might be prepared. And what's that? That's India and China and all of that. No, they haven't marched out of China since the days of Genghis Khan, I think, you know. I don't know, actually. Marched out of China. They have a border war with India, and there's like border disputes with Nepal and stuff, but that's not exactly marching out of China. That's all right on their border. All right, and he shall enter peaceably, even upon the fattest places of the province. What is that province? That word sounds so... In which province? His province? Their province? The Israelite province? A lot of it's cryptic. You know, it says, shut up the book. The word means province. I just looked it up. I'm not going to bring it up because they didn't have anything else to add to that. It's part of a country. Like a state or a county, something like that. Well, in the United States, it's not like it would be like a state in the U.S., but we're so big that literally those states are meant as like separate countries originally, you know, because they were so big. Even those small, they come from Europe where everything's really packed in, even though, you know, there are big countries in Europe. Nothing quite so big as what we built here. And he shall do what his fathers have done. He shall enter peaceably upon the fattest places, and shall do that which his fathers have not done, nor his fathers' fathers. He shall scatter among them the prey of the spoil of the rich. He's going to do the good old. And again, that's a common technique of the demagogue. You know, they come in, they promise people lots of goodies, and then if they make good on those promises, that's going to make them even more secure. That's kind of like how Absalom won away the children of Israel's hearts from David. You know, he came in there and said, "Oh, I would judge for you." He didn't do this though. And this doesn't mean something that's never been done. It's been done. People have done this. You know, that's what the communists all promised. You know, they're going to scatter the riches among everybody. But all that does, you know, all that does is when you redistribute wealth, unfortunately, is you end up just wrecking the country and divvying up the ruins. And then it has to be rebuilt because it's like, it doesn't just work that way. You can't just take everything away from everyone and then split it up into parts. Because it's sort of like you're saying no more progress from here forward. And that's not how things work. You can't like freeze time. So we don't need to do anything more. We always need to build more, do more, move more. We're going to keep going. He shall forecast his devices against the strongholds even for a time. What do I mean by forecast his devices? I'm going to switch it over so you can see. Forecast of devices. It's funny because forecast devices start to sound like technology that we have. Like, my device is is forecasting. Or I'm going to forecast my device. Hold on. Forecast devices. We're going to look at both words. 2 words. So, chasab is to think or take account. I'm not going to try to pronounce that. It's a thought or device. A different chasab, mak chasaba. They look like very similar. So it's more like he shall think his thoughts. You know, he's going to take account. He's going to take, you know, forecast devices are actually kind of a nice rendering on the King James part, even though it's not exactly right. I like it because it is sort of like he's sort of planning ahead what he's going to do. You know, he's preparing ahead of time his plans and machinations, forecasting his mental devices. You know, preparing what he's going to do in the future, which is betray, of course. He's looking at the strongholds and considering how to take them down. And that, you know, in a wide variety of ways. You think about it, like you look at like something like the churches. You know, how do we destroy the churches? Well, we infiltrate the priesthood, perhaps, infiltrate the pastors. When we have a stronghold in society, we have a place that people have refuge, and it's something that helps keep the society together too, because if you have a stronghold, it's not easy for someone to just come in and invade and kill everybody or take all your stuff. So strongholds are important. So he looks at those strongholds as like of the things that prevent him from being the absolute ruler, anything that stands in his way. And that's why in the pandemic you see them attacking churches. They would not allow people to go to church. You could go to a BLM protest, and that's all fine. And then you could go grocery shopping. You can do all kinds of things in public with people around. But they said you couldn't go to church. And I don't know why every church didn't say, yeah, well, we can. We're not listening to you. Because we have the right to free religion. They can't make any law about it. And so they can't just tell you not to go to church either, because they don't have a law. And I don't care what emergency it is. It is an emergent. They made up the emergency. They have to actually, whatever. They have to make them do it. People just obeyed. They didn't actually make them make us do stuff. I know, because I was resisting. And next time it's going to be harder and probably worse. Okay, so whatever. I want to expect. I want to be like, we'll do better next time. I'll tell you what. If it's not the end times, I think we will. If it's not the end times, but if it is, we may get louder and whatever. I don't know. The Lord will lead us. That's for certain. So he's going to scatter among them the prey and the spoil and the riches. He's going to buy off the people's hearts with his gifts and riches. Isn't that what people, and that's what people, hey, what was it in the pandemic? The people, they just want to get back to their life. I wanted to get back to my life too, but I'm not willing to do whatever they say to get there. They didn't have it was just a panic that they wickedly put on people. It wasn't real. There wasn't anything real. It was basically the herd was panicked and we trampled a bunch of people and killed them. That's what happened. That's what really happened. The scientists were playing with viruses that are dangerous, no doubt, but not any more dangerous than anything that would have been out there this winter killing old people, to tell you the truth, like the flu. It's about the same as the flu. It was like the worst flu I ever had, though. I will confess, right? Especially those early strains. They were much more novel, right? I get it. It was, but whatever. It still didn't result in. They were saying it was going to be, hundreds of thousands of dead in a month. Yeah, no, it didn't happen. It didn't happen. They didn't have enough ventilators to kill that many people. See. Sorry I say that, but unfortunately, it's true. That'll come out later, like everything, maybe. It'll come. It's funny. It comes out, but then people, they still are ignorant because it doesn't come out on the lying news media. So they never know. They never know things got corrected. They never know. It doesn't stop the spread. It doesn't do that. It doesn't even hardly protect you. It just gives you a little protection. Gives you a little protection, like a condom full of holes. Right? A little protection. So he's going to lay plans against strongholds, stir up power and his courage against the king of the south with a great army. And the king of the south shall be stirred up to battle with a very great, mighty army, but he shall not stand, for they shall forecast devices against him. They're going to have plans. So again, there's some sort of battle. If this is in the end times, it's kind of weird, right? I don't see how that fits. So like I said, I take it as typical of Antichrist, not necessarily this is full-on narrating the path things will take. It could be, and the Lord can totally do that. Like I said, the Lord, when he came, what did Jesus, he spoke in a lot of parables. Why would God come and start speaking in stories? Because a lot of the things we know about God are contained in stories. That's why he came and he saw, you guys like to tell stories about me. So now I'm going to tell you stories about you and me too. He tells stories about God. You think about like Jonah. A lot of people don't believe Jonah really happened, or like Job. I've suggested Job. Jonah kind of, I tend to believe because I'm really into the prophets, I always think they're the ones who get these things happen to them. And so, and I believe in resurrection and stuff because it's like, we're going to do Jonah sometime soon, actually. But, I'm skeptical of some things mostly because of geology, right? That's why I said the dates, I can't stand by any dates. And also with just, again, when we talk about this King of the North and King of the South, the way they go against each other, I almost feel like it's like you're having two things being told at the same time. Like there's interweaved, not two narratives, but like facts about Antichrist and a narrative about Antiochus, or whatever, or is it, or maybe it is. Maybe there's going to be an obvious king of the South in the end times, and the king of the North that's where Antichrist will rise, and he will have to subdue three kings. Maybe the king of the South is just one of them. Right? So I don't know. He does say he has to subdue three kings, right? 3 of them were plucked up by the roots. And we also know he receives a deadly wound. And maybe that's in the course of this fighting. Because maybe Antichrist appears and is not just, he definitely he says he comes in and he flatters them and his whirlwind of, like, I imagine an extremely charismatic person who gets very, as wide as acceptance as the pandemic, if not wider. You know what I mean? You know how obedient things were to the pandemic, the way everyone fell in line with that? That's the way it's going to be with Antichrist, with everyone falling in line. Most churches falling in line with the Antichrist. Most pastors preaching that the Antichrist is the Christ. That's what I believe is coming. That's why I always tend to think he's going to be supernatural, but Daniel always makes it sound like, nah, it's very earthly. And like I said, maybe there is a dual nature to it. Maybe there is a ultimate, because they do get on to worshiping the dragon. It's explicit. It says they worship the dragon which gave power to the beast. There's a beast and there's a dragon. And the dragon gives power to the beast and I've often thought the dragon is the beast. The way, but, here's the thing. Maybe that's it. Maybe I have to give that up. And that'll help me understand better. Because, the dragon and the beast, they can't be one and the same. I mean, they could be, I guess. I just suddenly thought of the Trinity. I thought, well, maybe they're different individuals because they interact with each other. And one gives power to the other. And maybe that's how I should be looking at it. Because that's how I read the facts about the Trinity. Kind of like saying, hey, why is it like this if it's not like that? Sometimes we have to say, hey, wait a second, this is symbolic and there's a contradiction here and we have to sort it out. Which side where does this fall? I often talk about that in regards to eternal torment and the second death. You could either say the second death is just, that's just symbolic. Oh, they're really being tormented forever. Or you could say, actually, the torment is symbolic and they're really just dead forever, which is what I believe. Symbolic or spiritual or it means something, right? But generally, we like to take the word and let it speak to us. I don't say take it at face value because that's our value. That's me taking it at what my take on it right as soon as I see it, my face value reading. That's not necessarily right. I want to let it speak to me with its own voice so that I'm hearing from God and not imposing on God's word my own preconceptions, like Antichrist should be supernatural. Of course, Paul, you've learned that since you were with Arnold Murray. You rejected everything else he taught. Not everything, of course. I still believe in Jesus, right? I'm still a futurist, a millennialist, But I'm not a pure futurist, right? I'm believing the mixed. I told you that I'm not all futurist. We have future and we have present and we have past and we have types. God is he which is and was and is to come. And so I think there is a lot of future prophecy, but yes, a lot of it is old, but it's not ended because it's still significant, most of it. Even in this part about the King of the North and South, I saw things in there and we talked about that you can extract and apply in a wider way, but not much really. It's because it's really just people doing stuff. Because here it's more values judgment. Both these kings' hearts shall be to do mischief, and they shall speak lies at one table, but it will not prosper, for the end shall be at the time appointed. They lie to each other. This is what the evil rulers do. They lie to each other. They go to negotiate in bad faith. I mean, in their hearts, they're going to negotiate, but their hearts are both full of mischief, and this is all in bad faith. They're going to, let's bargain, and they have no intention of budging. So then shall he return to his land with great riches, and his heart shall be against the holy covenant, and he shall do exploits and return to his own land. Yeah, let's just leave it. Let's pick it up at verse 28 tomorrow. I don't think I'll read through the whole chapter. I'll pick it up at verse 21 perhaps, because it's just a long chapter and I'd like to get through more. We got through a little chunk there. But there's a lot to this. This is worth looking at so we can gain more insight, because we're going to have to be thinking about this as we watch what happens in the world. It's good to have in your head, if there is anything that's going to replicate this, I'd like to have it in my mind so I can see it. And so that's why we go over it again. It's good that this is, honestly, it's good to go. The parts that are hard to understand or really thick, it's like sometimes we might go really slow through that. And I'm sorry if it takes a long time. But, I think we're here to find understanding, not so much blast through the Bible. I was thinking about making a scripture reading channel. I may do that, and then we can blast through the Bible, which would be fun. But for this, we're doing the expository study. So thank you for joining me. I look forward to being back again soon. I'm going to look into that audio issue. And until next time, remember, the testimony of Jesus is the spirit of prophecy. And I don't have any music here ready to go. Let's see.